You use Mouya, and you brought it into Mudbots to sculpt it. Cool. That's the way to do it. Yeah, I haven't reinstalled Mudbox since I updated to Creators Updated Windows 10. I tend to jump into ZBrush more than Mudbox, only because I preferred Mudbox's interface. It's much cleaner, which guys that watch my channel know I like a nice clean interface for my work. No matter what that program is, if it has a nice clean interface, I like to use it. So I like Mudbots for that. I tend to use ZBrush simply because Autodesk aren't developing Mudbox anymore. You can still rent it from them, like on their subscription model, but they're not actively developing it anymore. I think they're going to let it die, which will be a shame because it's a great program. Yeah, but no, Mudbox can do some really great sculpting work. What are you going to be making, Rage? Are you doing a game engine? You're going to do some stuff with the Unreal Engine? Because it's free, you can download it for nothing. Play around with it. Stone is very nice. We're nearly back to the beginning here. I actually do want to do a stone as well that I've done in Substance, so I'll do that on stream before we close out for the day, because I finish in about half an hour. You're saying you should learn ZBrush too, to be honest. The interfaces are horrible in ZBrush. I detest it. I really do. I know I get a lot of hate from some guys for saying that, but it's awful. It's the best word for it. It's just awful. It's confusing. They hide stuff everywhere. It's not a nice interface to use. I do use a plugin for ZBrush. That's a free plugin you can download called Mouse Rotate, I think, and that way you can use your mouse to rotate around in ZBrush's viewport, more like you do in Maya and in Max. I found that helps a lot. Oh, you still want for changing the sky? Okay. Do you want me to show you a rock that I do in ZBrush, or do you want me to show you the LUT in Photoshop? I'm happy to do either. I just thought, considering you were using ZBrush, sorry, not in ZBrush, Painter. I'm doing another rock in Painter, and I did the LUT in Photoshop. I just thought, considering you're doing some rocks in Painter, you might like to see how I do it, what I've done. There's still one rock I want to bring in. Like I said, I'm only using 3 different meshes for my rocks here, and there is one more that I do want to make. But I will show you guys that LUTting, how I created the LUT for Unreal. Because like I said, it is handy to know, because it allows you to change the color of the lighting quite dramatically. Hey Leetness, good to see you. Haven't seen you for ages. Yeah, but no, if you want to see the Photoshop LUT work that I did to change the coloring in Unreal, yep, no, I'm happy to show you that, Rage. What have you been up to, Leetness? You been doing any work? I haven't seen you streaming for a while. You okay? Everything cool? Just painting some broken rocks right here. Just for any of you guys that aren't aware, Leetness does character artwork in ZBrush. Did you hear me saying how much I hate ZBrush's interface, Leetness? And he does some really nice work as well. So, really nice modelling work, character modelling. Oh, it's 4 AM for you. I keep forgetting, guys, because I stream here in the middle of the day. I always forget for you guys in Europe and around the world, it can be really weird hours. So, yeah, no, that's cool. It's always a problem, isn't it? I've noticed that when I'm on holiday, I tend to stay up later than I normally would during the week when I've got to work. And that throws my whole sleep schedule out then for the rest of the week when I'm back at work. So not anymore. What do you mean, Leetness? You're not streaming anymore, or are you talking to Rage? paint some of that solid rock here on the top, I think. I might go with a bit of dirt as well, just to break it up a bit. Where are we going? Yeah, I may throw some rock texture through here, I think, too. Along those ridges to make them look a bit more interesting. Oh, you're in Atlanta Rage. Cool. Every time I hear the Atlanta mentioned, it reminds me of that episode of Futurama, where they talk about Atlanta. I think it's the one where in the future Atlanta is in a big bubble under the ocean or something. Like a dome. I must get to the United States. I haven't actually visited there. So I've been to Europe quite a bit, but I haven't gone to the US. I really should. Again, I'm just breaking up this this large mound here by making it look a bit more rocky. The Lost City of Atlanta, yeah, that's the one. It's very funny. Alright, so yeah, I'm just breaking up this large mound to make it look a bit more rocky, a bit more interesting. We seem to be almost back to the beginning there, so, and when I do my cinematic here, I'm going to start the camera around about here, so we don't really need to texture any further past there, and that's the edge of the landscape anyway. So there is just I just want to throw a bit more dirt through some of this area through here quickly, and then we'll jump into Photoshop and I'll show you how I do that LUT for Unreal. And Leetness, you can't stream late at night anymore? Oh, okay. That's fair enough. Yeah, I'm just throwing a little bit of dirt through here to get rid of some of that that texture we have here with water laying on the top of the surface on these ridges, which just doesn't look right. And then we can jump into Photoshop and I'll go through how I created the LUT for Unreal. Okay, that should be fine. So I still want the water laying on the ground here because I'm going to be covering this with reeds and with grass. I just didn't want water laying on these angled sections. But we've textured up our landscape down to the front now from all the way back here. So we've done about maybe half of the landscape textured. Let's just position our camera here and we can jump into our Photoshop. So again, this is just for the benefit of anyone that's not sure what I'm talking about and what a LUT texture is. I'm using a LUT texture here in Unreal. And you apply a LUT texture to a post-process volume, which is this one here. Let me just get out of landscape mode. This here, you add a post-process volume, and that's that large yellow rectangle you can see there about in the background that covers the entire landscape. And in this post-process volume, you load up a LUT texture, and now a LUT texture is this thing here. That's what it looks like, and that lets you adjust the colors in Unreal, in the Unreal lighting. And just to show you what that actually does, if we look at the trees, maybe it's probably a better example of what it does. I have my custom LUT turned on. If I turn it off, you can see the difference in the coloring it makes to the lighting in Unreal. Unreal's default lighting looks very dark and saturated. It looks saturated. They really saturate the color. And using a custom LUT that you can control, you can make it look any way you want. You don't have to make it look like I have. It just allows you to get more of a natural lighting look to your scene. If we look at the landscape, we can see the difference that makes there as well. It's less obvious, but you see it on the green and the moss, on the rock. When I turn it on, it's most obvious on the trees. It knocks out a lot of that really saturated green. Now the way I create that, let me just save my level here. We'll jump into Photoshop. There's a couple of ways you can do it. You can either do it by hand, or you can load up a LUT file from a camera, an actual real-world camera. You can find them online. Now you can download some free ones online. If you search for a free LUT for LUT, I'm sure you can find some that way. I'll open up the file I used to create my LUT, and I did use a real-world camera file to actually create it. Don't do this. This is my, you can see my LUT up here in the corner. So what you do is you go into Unreal. You need to have some stuff in your level so that you can see the color difference. So just place a couple of objects or whatever you're making in your level. Frame it up. Press the print screen button on your keyboard so you get a copy of the screen. Then you jump into Photoshop. You paste that copy of the viewport in a new document. Now you need to get this what they call the base LUT, and you can download that from Unreal's website. If you go to the documents section of UE4, they actually have a default LUT that you can download, and it's just that LUT color file there, that small rectangle, but it's a default one, so it's had no color adjustment done to it. You download that from Unreal's website, from Epic's website in the documentation. So go to UE4 wiki or whatever they're calling it, search for LUT, and there's a link to download this PNG file. You just download that PNG file, which is just that small rectangle. You open it up in Photoshop and copy it into your, over the top of your screen grab, and place it up there in the corner, in the top left corner. Okay, so if I turn these off, that's my screen grab. This layer is just my little LUT that I download from Epic Games, the default LUT. You just place that in the corner on top of your screen grab. And then what you want to do is you want to place an adjustment layer on. So you've got to go to layer, where are we? A new adjustment layer. And you want to color lookup. Okay, so you go layer, new adjustment layer, color lookup. That'll throw a color lookup layer on top of these two images, the LUT and the screen grab. Now, once you've done that, if you don't want to use a custom LUT from a camera, so you don't want to go online and download one, then you can make your adjustments by throwing on making adjustments using where are we? I actually don't have it here, but you can make adjustments using your colors, like I'll go back here. So you can do a hue saturation, you can do a color balance, you can get your color balance to look exactly how you want that way. Basically any of the Photoshop adjustment layers, you can make adjustments to your image. Now I didn't do it that way. In my adjustment layer here, if you go up to the top here, you can see there's an option called 3D LUT file. That allows you to load in one of these .cube files, which is from a real-world camera. And the best example I can give you is to show you what it does. So you can see this is my LUT that I'm using in Unreal at the moment. That's the default color that Unreal comes with. So that's my LUT. But if I want to change that, I can go up to the top here, and go, that's fine. Actually, Unreal, Photoshop does come with a few built-in LUTs you can try out as well. But if you want to load a specific LUT you download from the internet, you can go load LUT. I have a folder set up specifically in my textures folder here for LUTs, which is here. Let's have a look at some of these. You can go black and white, bleach, bypass. I'm going to go into Blockbuster here and we'll look at a couple of these. Again, these are all based on real world cameras, so they've been created based on a real world camera. I'm just going to choose one. And you see it's called cinemagic.cub, this particular one, but any LUT file is going to be .cub that you load into the adjustment layer in Photoshop. So you can load that up and you can see how it changes the color of the image. Let's do it again with another one. Let's go with Mount Severity. Again, you see how it changes the color of the lighting completely. So once you find a LUT that you want, or you make your color adjustments manually by hand, once you've got the color looking the way you want here, what you do then is you hide the screen grab. You want to do an adjustment and a trim, and that'll trim the image down to just the LUT. You make sure you keep your adjustment layer on. Just turn off the background layer. So you just have your adjusted LUT. Then you can save that LUT out, and it has those adjustments baked into it now from the color that you changed. So you save that out as a PNG file. Make sure you save it as PNG and only PNG. That's the only file format that Epic Games will recognize for their LUT. So you save it out as a PNG file, no compression. Make sure you don't put compression on it. So if I go to save it as a PNG, we'll just call it, I'm just going to save it to my desktop. I'm not actually going to save it, but I'm just going to show you. Make sure you turn off compression and you don't interlace it. So no compression, no interlace. Save it as a PNG. Then when you jump into Unreal, you add a post-process volume. You can find that in here in your where are we? In your all classes is probably the easiest way to go. You'll find a post-process volume listed in here. Just there. You add that to your scene. You would make sure you adjust it so it covers the entire area, that yellow box, just by scaling it. And when you do that, you can select the post-process volume in Unreal, go under color grading, global, and then down here you'll see color grading LUT. You can load your LUT file in there by just dragging it and dropping it directly on that. And then this color grading adjustment, you can dial in exactly how much of it you want from the original. So that's basically how you do your LUT in Photoshop. It's just based on either making the adjustments manually by hand using color adjustments in Photoshop, or loading up one of these .cube files to do it automatically for you. But even then, like I said, you have control over how strong or how weak it is in Unreal when you load it up. So even if you can't get the exact look you want in Photoshop, you can still make adjustments in Unreal once you've created your LUT. I just find the easiest way to do it is to download one of these CUBE files from the net and go into your adjustment layer and load it up there. You can see you've got the option to load it, or you can try one of the built-in ones that come with Photoshop. And again, they're all just based on real-world cameras. But again, if you don't want to do it with a CUBE file, you can do it by hand by doing adjustments with color balance and all that type of thing. Use saturation to get the look you like. And that's basically how you make a LUT, custom colored LUT, and bring it into Unreal. Let's just jump into Substance Painter really quickly because I want to do the other boulder. So I'm going to create a new project. I'm going to select my Boulder 2 that I've already exported from Max. I have a high version and a low version, so I'm going to load up the low. And this is just a different rock that I want to bring into the landscape. Let's bake the high res version down to that low res version. So I'm going to load up my high res mesh. I'll leave everything on default. I'll bake them all out, but I don't need all of those channels. So it's just baking the normal map information and height information from the high res mesh now into the low res mesh. So we have our rock here, our low res rock, with our height and normal map baked in from the high res. I've created an adjustment layer for all of my rocks, a smart layer up here. Now you create that in a Substance just by loading up your model, loading in your textures here that you want to use, your substances. Once you've got it all looking the way you like, you just add a folder. Where are we? Might be up here actually. Not a layer. Here, add a folder. So you've got all your layers here loaded up the way you like it. You add a folder. You drag all of your layers into that folder, and then you can right click and you can convert that to a smart material. And what that will do, let me just delete that folder because we don't need it. It'll allow you to go up here and add a smart material. So once you save that smart material, it'll pop it in here. And I've created one already called my rock texture, which is this one here. I created one for the cherry wood that we use on the internal assets like the railings and all of that type of thing. I've made one for my rock, so I'm going to load that up. And that'll keep the same settings for all of my rocks. I'm just waiting for Substance here to load it in. And you can see what that's kept all of my specific layers that I created for my rock here. And it's going to make all of the texturing of all of the rocks look the same sort of look to them. So smart materials, again, really handy to use in Substance Painter. Easy to create, and they're always available then if you want to, if you change projects and you want to keep the same settings for your new project, your new mesh. So we've created our texture here for our rock. Let's export the textures for that. I'm going to make sure I'm in the right folder here. Where am I? UE4 projects, models, Art Deco building, exports, Bolt 2. I'm just going to save them out as a 2K texture. Okay, let's save our project here in case we want to come back and change it at some stage. We'll just call it Boulder 2. And now we can jump into Unreal and bring that new rock that we just exported in. Terrain, import. We want Boulder 2, low res Boulder 2. That should be okay. And now we just got to bring in our set up our shader, because by default it just brings in the white color. But that's pretty easy to do. Again, we're going to change that out. It uses a parameter. We're going to use a texture map. So I'm going to import my textures that we just exported from Substance Painter. So we want the color. We're not going to be using the height map. We do want the ambient occlusion. We want the DirectX, the normal, and we want the roughness as well as the metallic. Metallic is it's just black really, but I like to bring it in anyway. you could use a constant value if you didn't want to load up a texture. Alright, so let's load up our textures here. And the easiest way to do that is just to select them all and drag them into the viewport. That'll create a texture sample for you. I'm just going to delete that one because we don't want that. Okay. I'm just going to move these around so they're all nice and organized for me. This one's the ambient occlusion, the normal map. I always move the ambient occlusion down to the bottom. And I like to make sure everything's nice and lined up. Alright, let's hook up our color. This should be the metallic. Again, the metallic here is just black. If you didn't want to use a texture, you could just add a constant. You do that by holding down the 1 key and clicking. And you can use it. That you can make that a constant to for metallic if you don't want to use a texture. We want to hook up our normal map. This one is the roughness map. And then finally our ambient occlusion. We'll save that. Alright. And now we have our textured model. But what I want to, I don't want to end there. I want to, it's actually a bit small, but it doesn't matter. We can scale it up in Unreal. I want to actually add a moss texture to that I've created. So what I'm going to do is I'll keep that open. I want to jump up to my materials here because I've already made one that I'm using on the other rocks. I think it's under terrain, yep. I'm going to duplicate this material just so I don't have to reset it up again. I'll call it Boulder 2 moss material. And again, I'm just going to load up those textures that we just exported. We just imported, I should say. Boulder 1, Boulder 3. Where did I bring it in? Oh, here. So the color, the metallic, the ambient occlusion, the normal, and the roughness. Again, I'm just going to pull them into the shader here. Just line them up a little bit. You go down there, and you go down there, and you go up there. Alright, just to explain what this shader is doing, I've created I have a texture for my moss, and I've created a shader here that'll allow me to control how much moss is on that rock using a slider, using a parameter I've created in the shader. So to show you what that will do is I'm just going to pipe in these new textures into this shader copy we made. Make sure that is, yep, roughness. We want the normal map to go into our normal material, but we also have to pipe the normal map into the, combine it with the normal map of the moss texture. So we do that down here in our shader path. And the ambient occlusion. Now I can remove these old ones because we're not using them. They're for the second boulder, third boulder. We're doing the second boulder texture here. Alright, I'll save that. I'm just waiting for it to recompile. Okay. Now we're going to get back up to our original materials up here. I'm just going to open up that second boulder again so it's ready for us to drop our new material on. terrain. So now we have to create another instance of our main texture here. So again, I'm going to duplicate it. I'm going to call this one Boulder 2 Moss Material Instance. And I want to make sure I load up my new Boulder 2 material in here. So again, back down to our Boulder 2. Actually, back where we were, I think. I got mistaken there. Back to terrain. This one here that we created with the moss on it already, Boulder 2 moss material. I'm going to drag that up here. Again, we're going to save that. Make sure that we open up our original mesh again. Go back to that one we just saved out, which is a Boulder 2 moss material instance, and we're going to drag that in. You see that adds moss on the rock. A better way to show you that though is for me to actually place that rock on inside the editor here so we can have a look at it. It's going to be too small, we're going to have to scale it up, so I'm just going to drag it in and scale it up. Now this moss is fully controllable based on that texture we just created. So if I just position it so we can see it, deselect it, go back to that instance texture we just made, which is this one. You see here we have a value. We can change everything from blending the moss normal map with the rock normal map to how much opacity the moss has on the rock, how many times the moss is tiling on the rock, the specular value of the moss, and the world blend max, and that's the one that controls how much moss appears on the rock. So if I just move this out of the way so we can get a better view and change my world blend max, you can see we can actually dial in how much moss is growing on the rock or dial it right back so that we have virtually no moss on the rock. And that's all based on the actual the world value of the actual physical object itself. So it looks at the mesh, the shader does, and determines from the mesh where to place how much moss to place and where to place it. So we'll dial it up so we just have a bit of moss growing on it like the other rocks. Come on. Yeah, it's really, if you're doing a lot of landscaping stuff where you're going to be using textures, you're going to be making rocks and things like that, it comes in really handy to control how much moss you want growing on it. And you can vary it up depending on the area you're placing your rock in as well. I don't want quite that much, I'm going to knock it back. And you can actually physically paint the moss on as well still. You don't have to rely just on this. If you want more moss down here or less moss up there, you can still go in and paint that in by hand on top of the this shader value. I think that much should be good for what we want. So we'll save that. We have our rock mossed up, and now we've just got to choose where to place it. Let's place it up there on the back of that hill, I think. Why not? And now that we've created these 3 different boulders, there's only 3 different versions. We can use those 3 for all of our boulders in our level, just by either changing the shape by scaling it or rotating it around to make it look a little different that way. So if I bring this one, maybe pop it in there like that. So it looks like we're continuing the top of the ridge there. and it looks a bit lonely on its own, so let's duplicate it. And again, by duplicating it, we're saving on memory because it's only reading it in once and just referencing it now with the second one. Let's rotate it, maybe like that. We'll move it up a little bit, and let's scale it up a bit bigger. Maybe like that. Deselect it. So you can see by using one rock, we can create a lot of different looking rocks from that one rock without people knowing that we've actually, we're just copying the same mesh around again and again and again. Let's do one more, but let's take one of these rocks, I think, to do that. Again, I'm just going to duplicate it so it's not going to be using any more memory for our engine. No problem, Rage. I'm actually about to finish the stream as well, but no, you're quite welcome. Thank you for popping in. I'll be back on again tomorrow at 5 p.m. Pacific time in the US, so have a good night. Thanks again for dropping by. I'm just going to place this final rock here, and then I'm going to finish up the stream. Let's see, we'll bring it in, we'll bring it up, we'll rotate it around, maybe like, let's rotate it 360 degrees, I think, to make it look a bit, no, let's rotate it maybe like that, and let's also rotate it maybe this way, and I'm going to drop it down a bit. And bring it over a bit. Maybe bring it forward a little bit as well. Yeah, I'm not really sold on that. Let's move it. Let's keep rotating it around till we get an angle we like the look of. No, I don't like that. I prefer to do these rock sort of outcrops from a distance. It'll give me a better idea of the silhouette to see whether I like it or not. That looks alright. We just wanted to break up, add it a bit more into the middle of those two pieces. We can put a tree or something in that section in the middle there. That'll make an interesting looking visual up there on the top of the horizon line. But I think we may actually leave it there for today, guys. I do want to thank you guys very much for hanging out with me and for watching. I will be back on again tomorrow at 5 p.m. Pacific time in the United States. I do post 10-minute... I post to my Twitter page at PhilDoes3D when I'm going live. So when I post that I'm live, the 10-minute countdown is on. I will be live again tomorrow at 5 p.m. Again, thank you guys very much for popping in and hanging out. Thank you guys for popping into chat and saying hello. I hope you guys have a good night, and I will be back on again tomorrow. See you guys.